Hello and welcome into another fantasy hockey video. Today I will be going over my top 5 bust potential players at the defense position in this year's draft. Before I get into that though, quick question. Would you be interested in me live streaming a fantasy draft? I was considering this the other day, but I thought I'd want to introduce the idea and see if there's any interest in it before possibly doing it. So if you are interested in that, leave a comment down below. I'll respond to it. Like a comment if you see it suggesting I do that. I'll look at that too. Also, I have 12 other fantasy hockey videos that should help you with your drafts on my channel if you're interested. Sleepers, bust, going over the top 10 at each position. I'll be going with my top 10 predictions for each position in the next 3 videos. Like these videos if you like them, sub if you like the content, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the videos as always. Let's get into the first defenseman here, and it is Victor Hedman, and this is another one of these guys I have to say, nothing to do with him as a player. He's the 15th player off the board, first defenseman off the board, ADP of 16.3, ranked 68th last year, 4th amongst defensemen, and to be honest, that's probably what you're going to get out of Victor Hedman this year. Was amazing in the postseason, yes, but now they're on a power play unit without Kucherov this year, which does hurt them a little. It is still very talented, but Victor Hedman kind of is what he is. Only one defenseman ranked in the top 20 last year as well, which was John Carlson. 55 points in 66 games for Hedman last year, which is his second best points per game in a season. So I think what you saw out of Victor Hedman is pretty much what you're getting. So if you do draft Victor Hedman this high in a points league, you're probably drafting a guy top 20 who's a borderline top 50 player at best for what he's going to bring for you for fantasy value. Great player, my money the best defenseman in the league, but for fantasy purposes, he's just not going to do it for you at where you're getting him. Fell to 27th in the only draft I've had so far in a points league. That is better value, but probably still high in my opinion. There's players around him too at the forward position who are better options for you, like Elias Pettersson, Mika Zibanejad, Mitch Marner, Brayden Point, Brad Marchand, Steven Stamkos. All those guys have top 10 potential. Victor Hedman just doesn't do it. You might as well pick up a good forward there who's going to be solid for you than a defenseman who's going to probably not be in the top 50 at the end of the year. Defensemen I like more than him this year are Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, John Carlson, and Roman Josi. 2 of those guys finished above him last year. 2 of those guys had better points per game than him last year, I believe. I know Makar did. Hughes might be a little under him, but Hughes I think will take that next step based on what I saw in the postseason out of him and just his upside potential as an offensive defenseman. We then move on to the second guy, which is Brent Burns. Brent Burns is still on the first power play unit in San Jose, but I'm not sure how much longer that will last. Brent Burns is getting up there. He's 35, turning 36 this season. He's going as a 6th defenseman off the board, and I'm going to make a prediction. I think he falls out of the top 10, so I don't think you should grab him. ADP of 53.5. You can get a lot of good forwards around here, too. I'm not going to mention them, but you can get better forwards for your value than Brent Burns. Brent Burns went from being a top 3 fantasy player previous years to last year being outside the top 5. I think he's only going to drop more this year because of his age. Erik Karlsson is only 30, and in my opinion, he's going to cut even more into Brent Burns' power play time because I think you're going to see that Karlsson is the better option on that power play. Power play points last year, Burns 17 in 70 games, Karlsson 13 in 56 games. Pretty good points per game for both of them considering they split it. 27 and 28 the 2 previous years from Burns, so you can see Erik Karlsson just cut into him right there. There's really no upside to Brent Burns here because he's not going to be a top 5 fantasy defenseman with Erik Karlsson hanging around. It just is what it is there. Agent Karlsson make Burns a hard pass for me. I like defensemen behind him like Quinn Hughes, Morgan Riley, who is now not dealing with Tyson Barrie there, so he should get the Leafs' first power play role all to himself. Torrey Krug on the St. Louis power play, Neil Pionk on that Jets power play, and they did correct that. They had Josh Morrissey listed there. I told you guys that wasn't true. Daily Faceoff did correct that. It now has Neil Pionk listed. And Rasmus Dahlin, I think, is just going to take a big step this year and surprise some people. We then go on to D3, my 3rd defenseman on this list, and that is Alex Pietrangelo. Now, I put a comment under my reviewing the top 10 defensemen off the board. That video is one you can check out. And I got to walk back my Alex Pietrangelo thoughts because I forgot Shea Theodore existed. Now, Shea Theodore was very good in the playoffs last year, and in my head, I probably should have taken better note of that, but when I was making the video, I don't know why, I just forgot about him. I said Nate Schmidt was on the first power play unit last year, and that was a lie. It was Shea Theodore, and Shea Theodore did a good job on that. And I think because of that and how good he did in the playoffs, Shea Theodore, 19 points in 20 playoff games last year, 8 power play points. I think he's going to get that role, and Pietrangelo is going to be playing those heavy shutdown minutes. And Shea Theodore is just going to run the power play with Mark Stone, William Karlsson, Pacioretty, and Marchessault, which if Pietrangelo had been in that spot, he's fine at 7th. But because he's not, I cannot justify taking him there. Highest non-first power play guy or split power play guy last year was Shea Weber, who ranked 16th amongst defensemen last year. I guess Brent Burns was the highest with split, but Shea Weber played even less, which I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see that Pietrangelo plays a similar role to what Shea Weber does, and I see Pietrangelo finishing around the 15th mark out of defenseman this year. I think it's a pretty safe bet if he's not on the first power play unit. He will not be a top 10 fantasy defenseman, and I think there are just better options around him. Mentioned Quinn Hughes, mentioned Morgan Riley, mentioned Krug, mentioned Pyle, mentioned Dahlin, who are all going, because Pietrangelo and Burns are going so close to each other, it's the same players here who I rather have over Brent Burns, that I would rather have over Alex Pietrangelo as well. Last year, Pietrangelo ranked 58th. I think he's going to struggle to get into the top 100 if he is not in that first power play unit. We then move on to my 4th defenseman to mention, and this is Seth Jones. Seth Jones is not on the first power play unit as well. Last year he ranked 249th. He missed 14 games, but 249th is still very low, even with missing 14 games. The year before that, Seth Jones finished 141, which I think is more accurate to where he'll probably end up finishing this year. He does have top 125 potential. I don't believe Seth Jones finishes in the top 100, though. 15th defenseman off the board. I do not think he finishes in the top 20. He has not gotten more than 10 power play points in the last 2 years because of Zach Werenski. Werenski and Jones are going around the same mark. Werenski is the guy to own. Werenski led the league in defensemen for goals with around 20, which is pretty ridiculous, but he's got a shot on him. Dropped from 57 to 46 points when Werenski took over the power play spot, and I think 46 points in a whole season is what you should expect out of Seth Jones with a full season. So I guess I'm going to say you're going to hope for 30 points out of him max this year. Defenseman I rather have over him, Rasmus Dahlin, Shea Theodore, who I just mentioned last slide, Ivan Provorov on that first unit in Philadelphia, Tyson Barrie leading that Edmonton power play. He's slept on a little too much in my opinion. If you look at what he did with Colorado, he's probably going to do better than that with Edmonton. Tony DeAngelo running the New York power play, Jeff Petrie, who's going to be on the first unit in Montreal, and Thomas Chabot, who's going to play half the game for Ottawa because they have no one else. We then go to D5. And my D5 guy here, 5th defenseman, Shea Weber. Shea Weber is 92nd off the board, 19th defender off the board, ADP of 93. And I just think Jeff Petrie is going to take over the lion's share of the minutes on the power play, and I think he should. I think he's a better option. I think the coaching will realize that despite Weber having a cannon, I think you may see Weber still utilized on the power play every now and then. I just think less so than in the previous years. Ranked outside top 50 amongst defensemen in power play time last year. I think that's going to decrease even more. Older, 35, has had injury issues. This is another big thing for me because he can finish top 20, even without the first power play time, I think. But because of the condensed schedule, because of the injury history, and because of his age, there's a lot of question marks about how well Shea Weber can hold up. And I hate to say that because you want to assume all these players are going to stay healthy. But I just think there are better options who are younger and more likely to be reliable and consistent and have power play opportunity that Shea Weber will not get. I'm going to say he falls out of the top 25, which I don't think is that disrespectful for what he is. I think the Canadiens take a step forward if that makes you Canadiens fans feel any better about yourselves. Defenders behind him in the draft I would have over him are Ivan Provorov, Tyson Barrie, Tony DeAngelo, Jeff Petrie, Chabot. I think Adam Fox will even finish above him. And Mike Giordano is kind of a sleeper. I don't think he ever gets back to where he was 2 years ago when he won the Norris. But yeah, I think you could see him perform better than he did last year. And I think you could see him outperform Shea Weber. That being said, those are the 5 defensemen I think you should not pick in the draft this year and take other options. As always, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you want to follow my coverage for hockey coverage going forward, hit the subscribe button. Comment about that live drafting. I will do it if enough people want it, but I gotta see the comments. I gotta shout out Ben H Designs again. He did my designs. I love them so far. No complaints whatsoever. Hit him up if you want your designs. And Victor Hanasek, who's a photographer who I use the background photos for these slides on. And that being said, I'll see you in the next video tomorrow, which will be my predictions for the top 10 goalies in the draft. Peace out. See you in the next video.